Last year, Honda introduced an all-new generation of its most popular model worldwide, the CR-V. This is the 6th generation of the model, and while on the outside it might look quite different to the vehicle it replaces, if you look past the aggressive front fascia and the fancy-looking LED rear lights, the 6th gen CR-V builds on the qualities that have made this model such a staple in many markets. This new generation is longer and wider and slightly lower than the car it replaces, so it builds on the CR-V's probably its most important quality, its cavernous interior. There are also some interesting news from under the hood, but I'll tell you more about those as we get going. So while in Europe you can only get the CR-V as a hybrid all-wheel drive or a plug-in hybrid front-wheel drive, which is what I'm driving today, in the US and other markets you can also get this vehicle with a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine. That's not a hybrid. Both the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid make the same 184 horsepower, only this one makes it from a single motor, which drives the front wheels, while the hybrid version needs two motors to reach the same output. So they both sprint to 100 kilometers per hour in a claimed 9.3 seconds and will exceed 190 kilometers per hour flat out. And considering the fact that both the plug-in hybrid and the hybrid are part of Honda's PHEV line of electrified cars, the engine hardly ever drives the wheels. Honda's latest hybrids are essentially EVs that instead of a big battery pack, they rely on a combustion engine to generate electricity. And that's pretty much the same with the PHEV, only it has a much bigger battery, which can give you actual meaningful fully electric range. So unlike the hybrid, which gets a 1 kilowatt-hour battery pack, give or take, the plug-in version gets a much bigger 17.7 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which bestows it with the claimed WLTP electric range of over 80 kilometers or 50 miles. But as you've come to expect from these claimed efficiency and range figures for electric vehicles or electrified vehicles, you should take the figures with a grain of salt. And unless you charge your CR-V plug-in hybrid every day, you shouldn't expect to come anywhere near the claimed efficiency figure. For the last 148 kilometers, this car shows an average fuel consumption rating of around 8 liters per 100 kilometers. I presume this was driven mostly in town, and it's winter now, so the vehicle isn't as efficient as it could be, but it should give you an indication what you can expect out of this vehicle if you don't charge it regularly. So around 8-ish per 100 kilometers, which is still decent for a vehicle that's this big and weighs over 1.9 tons. In plug-in hybrid, guys, unlike other plug-in hybrids that need to start up their engine in order to give you full power, thanks to Honda's unique hybrid system where the electric motor is very powerful and the main source of traction for the car, you get full power as long as the car has enough electricity in the battery, which is all the time because it starts charging it automatically when it drops below a certain point. You can charge the CR-V PHEV from flat to full in around 2.5 hours thanks to its powerful 6.8 kilowatt onboard AC charger. If you don't have a dedicated EV charger and you just plug it into your household socket, then you're probably looking at around 8 hours for a full charge. You can use the paddles on the steering wheel, labeled plus and minus, to increase or decrease the level of brake regeneration. So now we're in max regen and the car is slowing down, but it's far less than in most EVs, to be honest. And the difference between maximum and minimum settings isn't very noticeable. I mean, it is, but it could be more so. Knee room for rear passengers was always a strong point with the CR-V, as was the adjustability of the rear seat. And both have been improved now. You can really recline the rear backrest to a point where you could almost fall asleep there without too much effort. Space in the trunk has grown compared to the previous generation from 497 liters to 587 liters, at least when we're talking about the hybrid all-wheel drive version. Honda has achieved this not only by making the vehicle slightly larger overall, but also by moving the fuel tank underneath the first row of seats and the battery pack from the hybrid system under the second row of seats. Interestingly, in the front-wheel drive plug-in hybrid, there's even more cargo room, 617 liters. That's because there isn't a second motor in the back to drive the rear wheels and take up all of the underfloor storage space. The design of the dashboard is completely different to that of the 5th gen CR-V. This one looks pretty much identical to what you would find in a Civic, complete with this grille that runs the width of the dash. The infotainment screen and the software are both improved. The screen has grown from 7 to 9 inches, and the infotainment is considerably better than in the old CR-V. Honda still isn't an infotainment leader, but at least everything works. It has wireless Apple CarPlay, but I'm pretty sure you need a wired connection for your Android phone, for Android Auto. I'm pretty sure the digital gauge cluster is standard on the CR-V, and that's fine, because it itself is fine. There's nothing particularly good or bad about it. It's about as average as they come. The driving position is fantastic, let me tell you. I don't like SUVs because you sit too high and you lose the sense of connection to the road, plus it's all really wobbly. But somehow in the CR-V, everything feels normal and natural. You do sit high because it is an SUV, but you can also get the seat pretty nice and low, and I like the fact that you can change the angle of the part that you sit on. This really gives you a nice under-thigh support, which anybody with longer legs really wants. The quality of the materials is also pretty good. I would say it's better than the average Honda that you can buy today. All of the top stuff is soft touch, including a bit lower down, and the soft touch plastic on the top of the doors extends to the rear doors as well. And there's no perceivable difference in quality between the front and the rear door cards, the plastics that they use, I mean. When it comes to the exterior, I think the front end is quite bold and it really attracts your attention, and it also looks a bit more premium, I think. This was achieved not only through the different front fascia design, but also by making the vehicle more square, and it's hard to put it into words, but I think it's evident that Honda wanted to make the vehicle appear more premium. It's also more expensive now. In Europe, the regular hybrid starts at around 53,000 euros, while the plug-in hybrid that I'm driving today starts at around 63,000 because it only comes very well equipped. I think the trim level is called Advanced Tech, and it gives you everything. I don't think this car has specific options added to it. Everything that it has courtesy of the aforementioned pack, which includes these perforated leather seats, which get heating and cooling, a heated steering wheel, an opening panoramic sunroof, a Bose sound system that sounds really good, heated rear seats, a fully electric hatch in the back. So with a price of around 63,000 euros, the CR-V plug-in hybrid is encroaching upon premium vehicle territory, and frankly, it's a bit expensive, even though it's a good vehicle. In terms of its performance, this vehicle isn't anything to write home about, although the figures don't really tell the whole story, because this has over 330 Newton meters of torque from its single electric motor, and because it's an electric motor, which drives the wheels directly most of the time, it has similar response to an EV, so when you stab it, it really starts to go. I was quite surprised, pleasantly surprised by its in-gear performance. I'd also like to mention the fact that while you do hear the engine when it starts up, the vibration isn't really felt in the cabin. And while you're driving in the city and only lightly touching the accelerator, the car feels like an EV. It stays in electric mode at low speed most of the time, and it's really quiet and quite refined. I'm going to take it on the highway to see how well it handles higher speeds in terms of refinement, because some Japanese cars do suffer in this respect when compared to vehicles designed by Germans, for whom high-speed cruising is more important. So now that I'm on the highway, I'm doing, let's bring it up to 130 kilometers per hour, set the cruise control, and overall impressions of the noise level is pretty good. Let's cover the panoramic sunroof, because that usually is a source of noise. It's actually surprisingly good and quite refined for a big, chunky Japanese SUV. I'm impressed. You can hear the wind around the mirrors and around the B-pillar area here for some reason. So it's not as good as some of the Germanic cars that it goes up against, but it's really good. I frankly wasn't expecting Honda to mess up the CR-V, because as I've said, it is its best-selling model, so it needs to get it right. And the new plug-in hybrid version, which can also tow more, will surely expand the spectrum of potential buyers that will be interested in this car. Another plus point for this vehicle has to be the level of comfort. With the longer wheelbase of the 6th generation model, which is 2.7 meters, which is quite long by any standard, the level of interior comfort is even better than before. The plug-in hybrid also comes as standard with adaptive dampers, which are now in comfort mode, and they provide a very good ride. And thanks to this soft suspension and the spaciousness, this is a great vehicle to cover long distances in. Put it in sport mode, from this toggle here, which also gives you the option to put it in economy mode, as well as the new snow mode and tow mode. And regarding towing, the hybrid version can tow only up to 750 kilograms, while the plug-in hybrid, even though it has just the one motor, can tow over 1.7 tons. So this is the one you should go for if you want to hitch something to the back of your CR-V. Out on the open road is where this vehicle shines the most. This is such a relaxing driving experience. In many vehicles, even more expensive ones, I moan about how the seats don't offer enough this or enough that, or they offer too much of something, or they are just not well judged. But in the CR-V, and Hondas in general, to be honest, there's nothing to criticize. It's like these seats are perfect. And it also doesn't suffer from another trait of Japanese cars, which used to be that they were designed for shorter people. So somebody of my stature, I'm 183 centimeters tall, wouldn't be comfortable in them. But this is no longer the case. There's an empty bit of road here, so I'm going to try to do a launch. Put it in, it is in sport mode. Let's see. That was 120 kilometers per hour. It doesn't feel slow, it feels adequate. And that's enough performance for a vehicle that really doesn't really feel that sporty, even in sport mode. So, the 6th gen CR-V is great, as you would expect. It's still going to be a very, very strong contender in the segment because it's just so hard to resist its traditional blend of qualities, which have been enhanced in the latest generation. Thank you for watching.